Welcome to Preservation Oaks, the podcast where we invite you to step away from the bustle of everyday life. Settle in and relax, and take a moment to leave the familiar behind as we explore the hidden gems of America that preserve our cultural past. We call them our Preservation Oaks, and with each episode, we'll journey to a different corner of the country, where we'll discover the unique histories, landscapes, and communities that make up our nation. We'll visit with local museums, historical and genealogical societies. They are the stewards of these stories. They preserve the legacy of each place like precious pieces of fabric in a quilt that binds the freedom-loving, hardworking people in this country together. So, slow down, grab a beverage, open your mind, and let us take you on a tour of the fascinating histories and heartfelt traditions that lie just beyond the horizon. This is Preservation Oaks, where every story is a stitch in the fabric of our shared culture. Now, join our host, Sean Radcliffe, as he uncovers another thread in the tapestry of America's heritage and what it takes to preserve it.
Hey there. Welcome to Preservation Oaks, where history lives and voices echo through time. I'm your host, Sean Radcliffe. Today, we're visiting a place that asks us to rethink what a historic town is supposed to look like. When you explore many Colorado mountain communities, you'll often find a historic downtown with rows of narrow, flat-topped brick buildings, storefronts from another century, and visual reminders of boom years long past. But Conifer, Colorado tells a different story. If you open up your favorite map app and zoom in on Conifer, at first glance you might wonder where the history is. The familiar markers of age and heritage don't immediately reveal themselves. Instead, the past here seems to live in scattered places, in a schoolhouse along old travel routes, with family homes, and in gathering spots shaped not by commerce, but by community. And perhaps that's exactly the point, because not every town was built around a main street. Some were built around people. And helping preserve the story of one of those communities is our guest today, the Conifer Historical Society, located in the Little White Schoolhouse, a modest but meaningful landmark that has stood as a center of learning and community life for generations. It's a beautiful place with a sweet historical society. Conifer is a quiet community, and as we often discover here on Preservation Oaks, it's in these quiet places where memory is carefully kept that the true texture of our nation's history survives. Joining us today is board member Christa Johnson from the Conifer Historical Society, and we're grateful to have her with us to help us better understand the story of this unique mountain community. By the way, our main platform is preservationoaks.podbean.com, but you can find us on nearly all podcast platforms as well as Rumble, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. So wherever you listen to the program, I appreciate it very much when you like, comment, follow, or subscribe. If you're interested in being a guest on our program, or if you have questions or comments, please feel free to email us at preservationoaks@gmail.com.
Hey, listeners from Kansas and all you Civil War buffs out there. The Kansas Historical Society is seeking donations to preserve and restore 37 tattered and torn, irreplaceable Civil War flags in their collection. If you can, please donate to help at www.kansashistory.gov. Just search for the Save the Flags Project, or use your favorite search engine and look for the Kansas Historical Society Save the Flags Fund or Save the Flags Project. Thank you.
Coming up on Preservation Oaks, a special episode entitled DNA Disruption, when test results rewrite family narratives. What happens when the records say one thing, the family story says another, and the DNA says something else entirely? We'll explore how genetic genealogy is opening new doors, challenging long-held assumptions, and sometimes reshaping family history in unexpected ways. Now here's a quick bio of today's guest, Christa Johnson.
Our guest today is a dedicated leader and volunteer with the Conifer Historical Society and Museum in Conifer, Colorado. Christa plays an important role in the daily life and future direction of the organization. She serves on the board of directors, focused on historic research and sharing the area's history via the Society's social media, website, and events. Her work is deeply focused on preserving Conifer's heritage, supporting the stewardship of the Little White Schoolhouse, and creating public events that help connect today's residents with the stories of their community's past. Beyond the Conifer area, Christa also serves on the board of the Jefferson County Historical Commission, where she co-chairs the publications committee that produces Historically Jeffco, a yearly publication about Jefferson County history. This magazine features peer-reviewed articles about the people, places, and events that have shaped Jefferson County, Colorado.
All right, this is Preservation Oaks Podcast, episode 119. Let's see what we can learn today. Welcome to the program, Christa.
Thanks. Great to be here.
You're welcome. Christa, Conifer sits about 8,277 feet in the Rocky Mountain foothills. How does living at that elevation shape the community's identity today?
Well, we are just outside the Denver metro area, just close enough for things to be convenient, but just a far away to be peaceful, natural, outdoorsy. We live on acres of land surrounded by pine trees, meadows, rock outcropping. Our streets are winding through mountains, and they're really often very unpaved. You see bears, foxes, mountain lions actually routinely. So we're used to things being rustic and natural. And because of that, we live a little differently. And we think about things a little differently. And we socialize and look at our history a little differently too, which I'm sure we're going to get into a lot today.
Okay, very cool. Thank you for that. Being just 33 miles southwest of Denver, Conifer has always been connected to larger travel routes. Has that influenced its historical development?
Yes, actually, a Native American trail ran right through this area. It was traveled by several tribes, including Utes, Arapaho, and Cheyenne, and they used it during their seasonal migrations from higher to lower elevation. So that was back in the day. And stone circles, the teepee ring, ancient artifacts, those have actually been discovered right around the corner at Flying J Ranch Open Space Park. We've got a lot of these great spaces that are tied to our history. However, in the mid-1800s, gold was discovered, and hundreds of thousands of people flocked to Colorado. Many of those were traveling to the new towns, which we all know as Fairplay, Breckenridge, Leadville, all those mining towns, and they were streaming through our area. Initially, they used that same Indian trail with wagon ruts from other travelers as their guide, but that travel was hard. So they built private toll roads between 1859 to 1860, and that's really when this area became much more accessible.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. Well, because the Ute Trail once ran through the area and was used by the Ute, Arapaho, and Cheyenne, how does that deep timeline shape how you think about local history? Do people today still feel connected to the legacy?
It's an interesting thing because we realize that although we call this place Conifer and we recall events along the timeline that's familiar to us, right? The traditional sort of timeline. It's really not a full reflection of this area's history. Recently, therefore, we started engaging with tribes to tell the full story of this land. We love our pioneer history, but we want to tell the full history. So it's still a work in progress, but I'm really excited at what that can mean for everybody. And I think it definitely, to your question, has shifted how we've started to think about our local history and trying to be more inclusive.
I love it that you're connected to the tribes somehow. Did that connection just start or has it been there?
It's just starting. So I was fortunate through one of my other volunteer gigs with the Jefferson County Historical Commission to go to a preservation conference. And in that conference, we had some presenters from Denver about a cultural context study that they did. And in that meeting room was somebody from the Southern Ute tribe. And so I was super fortunate to be able to connect with her. And they are interested now initially in doing some communication with us, as well as submitting some stories and articles for Jefferson County Historical Commission as well. So it's still emerging, it's still forming, but I am really, really excited about it.
Oh, yeah. That's exciting news. Very good. I'll bet everybody in town is really happy about that.
I don't think anybody else really knows about it.
Oh, okay. Well, they'll learn about it through this podcast.
Right. They will.
Hey, I learned that Bradford Junction was once the name of Conifer, and it once served as a stage stop for travelers heading toward mining towns. What role did that crossroads play in early settlement?
Yeah, it's funny. That crossroads right there, that was actually very, very important at that time. And right now, it just looks like a simple crossing of roads. It's got a really striking barn, yellow, and a few other small homes painted again in that sort of distinctive butter yellow. They're kind of clustered together across a beautiful meadow with a stream running through it. And that is really where Conifer got started. As I mentioned, those toll roads were built in the 1800s. Two of those crossed right at Bradford Junction. And one of them, the Denver, Bradford, and Blue River Road, was named after Robert Bradford, who built one of those toll roads. So that location was that ideal place for the travelers to rest, to feed their livestock. As a matter of fact, a hotel was built there, and it was known as Ho for the Blue, leading to the mines around the Blue River. So Hotel for the Blue. It also then included a restaurant, a saloon, a grocery store. And then in 1861, there is a stone well there that was built at 1861. It was built right at the center of those two toll roads to water those travelers and the animals. And if you can picture it, sort of a heavy chain hung across the road, and travelers paid a toll to continue through the mountains, 50 cents per animal for like your first ones, and then 25 cents for each additional. So it was really central to people coming through that area. But at the time, you would have also heard a lot of different languages. And that's, I think, another part of this sort of early settlement area. You would have heard English, of course, but French, German, Italian, Russian, Swedish, Norwegian, Finnish, Gaelic. And that was that immigrant story, both traveling through our area and settling area, made Conifer what it is today. Eventually, that property evolved from a stage stop to a summer resort to a ranch, and eventually families just made it their home. That barn, ranch, and caretaker's home that I mentioned, those were actually built in 1918 because some of the other buildings were actually burned down because of various different sordid Wild West tales. But the barn that we see now really became a community gathering space with rodeos and weekly dances. And then eventually, a portion of the land of that greater property was donated to house a new one-room schoolhouse, which is part of our historical commission today.
Oh, very cool. I've seen that yellow barn on my favorite map app. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
It looks even better inside because the inside of the upper level still has the inner structure completely unfinished, and it looks like the inside of a boat hull. It's gorgeous.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'd love to see that. Christa, what compelling narratives from Jefferson County or Conifer's history encapsulate its spirit and heritage?
So I mentioned the people streaming through that area, and it really is this combination of immigrants and then Native people. And it's complicated. Our history is simply complicated because of that. It's a combination of contradictions. On one hand, we've settled Native lands, and there's a deep, rich history there. But on the other hand, there's that fortitude and drive from the immigrants to start anew and make a place for their families. So I think that spirit of doing things a little bit different, going someplace just a little bit more out of the way, and really communing with the land really still lives on today. There is something that is still present in this area, just maybe not as prevalent. That's kind of a little known fact. And when I talk about those immigrants and those settlers and pioneers, this area was actually founded in large part by members of the reorganized Latter-day Saints. So that's kind of an interesting element to this that not a lot of people know. So they are immigrants that came from England and other places who were part of what we call the reorganized Latter-day Saints. We all know the Latter-day Saints, which is commonly sort of referred to as the Mormon community. But these folks came with the Latter-day Saints from England, many of them, received their passage, and then as they went westward, they determined that a portion of the Latter-day Saints' theology and practices weren't for them, which was polygamy. And so they decided to come back to Conifer, leave the primary sect, but come back to Conifer and be part of sort of an offshoot, which did not espouse polygamy, but they still espoused the rest of the Latter-day Saints theology. And so some of the churches in the area, one in particular that used to also then be a one-room schoolhouse, was actually run by those elders. Those elders were very, very prevalent in this area. And what was beautiful about that church is it really, even in the day, even though it was founded by these elders, was a interfaith community. And one of the quotes in our local books comes from a woman that says, "Faith is faith, God was God." So it didn't matter which religion per se you were part of, you were all able to join together. And I think that's really beautiful. And again, sort of espouses the spirit of our mountain community today. We're all very different, but we all really have a lot in common nonetheless.
Yeah, that's very cool. I didn't know that about Conifer. That's great.
Yeah.
Christa, how was your town founded, and what landmark events do you believe have had the most impact on its history?
So we mentioned Bradford Junction, and that was really sort of the initial forming of Conifer, named after Robert Bradford. And when we talk about landmark events, I might have mentioned that one stone well. While those stones were being laid, a traveler stopped, and he came sort of bursting in with news he learned in Denver that the Civil War had begun. Confederate troops had defeated Union forces. I think it was about July 21st, 1861. And that was actually the first major land battle of the American Civil War. It became known as the First Battle of Bull Run. So that little watering hole in its neighboring trough was thereafter called the Civil War Well, and it became that center of activity. Travel centered around it, news travel around it as the war continued. And we have a lot of grave sites in the areas and settlers who either came to this area because they were Civil War veterans. Some of them had land grants or had made money off of land grants. And we also have a lot of burials of veterans throughout all the wars, but also Civil Wars. And then you think about other kind of areas that stitch these different mountains together. For those listeners, if you were to drive through this area, you'd see a 4-lane highway driving through this area, and then several different mountaintops. And those mountaintops are all different neighborhoods, basically. Inside those different mountains are several one-room schoolhouses. Those were kind of tucked inside our mountainside. They were used as churches, schoolrooms, community gathering places. And at one time, we had at least 7 in the area, which is actually pretty impressive. But it's also reflective of how spread out we were. We're fortunate that a few of them are still around, and some are even used today. Like there's this Pleasant Park Schoolhouse, which is used by the Grange Association. It also has a cycling stop on its grounds. Way down in Denver, there is a start of a very popular road bike trail. Comes all the way up some really crazy hills. People probably get really out of breath doing it. And at the very top, you stop at that Pleasant Park Range. And they quite ingeniously have put out water and bathrooms and snacks and this and that. And it's kind of a fundraising of sorts, but it's really cool because everybody knows that spot, even down in Denver. Hundreds of cyclists visit it every weekend. And then other schools still use, which is that Little White Schoolhouse. It's the Conifer Junction Schoolhouse. It was built back in 1923 to replace the previous schoolhouse, which was once one of those Reformed Mormon churches I was talking about.
Yeah.
So that one was kind of used, abandoned, ran into ill repair, and they built this one on a portion of that Bradford Junction land. So you can see how it all kind of becomes this sort of cycle of life. A new school was necessary, so they improved the funds, and then the land was donated. And there was even a barn that was built in the 1930s to house the animals. So because teachers and students would ride to school, right? So the horse that the teacher would ride had previously been in the basement when she was teaching upstairs. So they decided we need a barn. So all these things just kept on being built. And those are kind of those landmark pieces, that Civil War starting, some schoolhouses being built, schoolhouses being rebuilt, then expanded. And then finally, Jefferson County, again, as our community continued to evolve from sort of a farming and ranching community to a bedroom community of Denver, we needed more schools. So they then built a larger school, and now that was donated to our historical society. It's used for events and then also historical exhibits. So we continue to grow over time, continue to evolve, but luckily still keep our safe character.
Yeah, you guys do a great job. I've got a couple of questions. One, I'm interested in Bradford Junction because that was the early years of Conifer. And I know there was a toll road, and I suppose the toll road was because so many people were going to the mining centers with gold and all that stuff. What role did stage stops like Bradford Junction play in supporting mining expansion toward Leadville? And my other question is about homesteading. You know, at the same time the Civil War was about to start, the Homestead Act was passed by Congress. Were a lot of the ranches in the area settled because of the Homestead Act?
Yes, absolutely. So I, as a matter of fact, live on one of those properties. My house is new, of course, but I traced my property back to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres that a gentleman called John Webb had homesteaded. He actually homesteaded a couple properties. And it's really neat to drive down this main road in my neighborhood and see an old barn and an old house and an old shed that belonged to him, even though now there's all these other things dotting along there. So the Homestead Act was absolutely pivotal in settling this area. A lot of folks had farms out here. Believe it or not, with this crazy weather that we always have up here in the mountains, they would do potatoes and lettuce and hay. There's even a road in our neighborhood called Resort Road or Lane or something like that. And it's known for the area that was just over the cusp of that hill called Last Resort. And that was the last resort of where they could get hay during a very, very bad snowstorm.
Yeah, because you get a lot of snow every winter.
We do.
You got to have hay. So was Bradford Junction Toll Road like the main artery going to the mining fields, the mining area?
It was one of them. So just north of us, if you were to look at Highway 70 or Interstate 70, that was another one that went up to Central City and Black Hawk and those kind of areas. But our area was one of the main arteries. And there was one road that was called Bradford's Terrible Toll Road that actually came over a very aggressive lower part of our area and then dumped out into that Bradford Junction area that I talk about.
Did all that money from the toll road go to the town?
No. Toll roads at that time were completely independently built. There really wasn't a town. And actually, today, there really isn't a town either. We're totally unincorporated. We don't really have a downtown the way you think about it.
That's right. Yep.
So, yeah, and those were completely privately funded. It was like a business.
Yeah, okay.
But it afforded our emerging country the way to create passageways for people without having to fund it from a federal government. So it was that early part of what we now look at as the highway system. And those toll roads actually did become then county and state roads eventually.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's very cool. With all the history in your area, the mountains, the snow, how do those unique traits of your region present both difficulties and potentials for preserving its heritage?
Well, we're really not traditional around here, like I said, but we do have sort of that central neighborhood. We don't have like a downtown per se, but we have a central neighborhood called Aspen Park. And that's where we do still come together for a lot of community events. So it's kind of hard to get together on one hand, but we make it work. The chamber hosts seasonal events and fairs, and they get more popular every year. They put up bandstands. I think last count, there was like 4 different ones. Vendors lining up in the street. We even have this really cute, charming annual Christmas parade. It's kind of something like almost out of, a movie or something like that, but it's really charming. The other thing that we do, of course, at our Little White Schoolhouse, we host these history-related events. I'm sure we'll talk more about those later, but they kind of occur nearly monthly. And then, as you mentioned, we've got all these mountains and this and that. The outdoors is really just a part of us up here. So we also consider our parks our gathering places. And we're really fortunate to have some amazing ones. And it's fun for me as a history buff because many of these, as actually most of them, were created from old homesteads and donated by their former owners. So we talk about these stage stops. Myers Ranch. On the way into Conifer, there's a beautiful Victorian house. That land for Myers Ranch open space is the land associated with the Midway House, another stage stop along that toll road. Reynolds Park, another open space. That land was associated with the Idleys Dude Ranch from the early 1900s, also an original homestead. There's also a state park, Stanton State Park, and that land is associated with the Staunton Homestead. 2 doctors who actually settled here. They decided to pick Conifer, although it wasn't Conifer at the time. While on their way from West Virginia to California, they bailed and just stayed here because they liked it so much. And now it's a state park.
So what sparked the creation of the Conifer Historical Society, and how did early challenges or successes shape its mission and goals?
When I looked into this after I joined, I discovered that, and it sounds a little sappy, but we were founded out of a love for history, just really plain and simple. One of the Historical Society's founders was inspired by a museum in Arizona. And so she started to do some exhibits at this Pleasant Park Grange that I was talking about before. Started small and took off. The women of our area really have just thought it was important. So back in 2004, the Chamber of Commerce started to create these history exhibits for what was called Conifer back then. And they formed this committee with some of who became our early founders and put up exhibit space there, and then also in Beaver Ranch, which, spoiler alert, just like we're talking about another area that is a park that used to be a homestead. First it was in a cabin, then it was in a teepee lodge, and then it was in a main lodge. And in 2007, by that point, after a couple of years, they decided they had to get serious. So a few ladies, including one of our founders, Susie Morris, asked the interested Grange members to come and meet in her dining room. And there was about 4 or 5 of them. And they just started making plans. They started creating bylaws. They had early meetings, including Museum 101 programs, so people could figure out what to do and how to do it. And then they started to create their programs. And the first program offered was about Meyer Ranch, that former stage stop. They started creating exhibits, some of which we still have and use today because the research was fantastic. And finally, in 2009, I believe, they filed an actual official IRS application to be a 501c. So we got all official. And then a few years later, we actually got the deed to that Little White Schoolhouse. And that's what serves as our, one could say, offices, although we usually just work remotely. We have a very large schoolhouse space that we use for exhibits. We also store our different collections there of donated artifacts, objects, books, photographs, and so forth. And this is also where we host other events, even outside in the schoolyard throughout the year.
Yeah, it's a very neat, well-preserved building. It's just fantastic.
Little known fact, my husband just restored the stairs leading up to the schoolhouse. And it hadn't been done in, I want to say, about 60 years.
Oh, wow.
So my IT/fly fisher guide husband, who is also a woodworker, created those. And as we were pulling them out, we uncovered the original stone steps that were there when the schoolhouse was originally built. So I took some pictures of that just for posterity's sake. It was really cool.
That's very cool. Great guy. Way to go, man.
Yes, he is. Yep. Yep. After 30 plus years with him, I still like him.
That's good. Now, I'd like to provide listeners with the contact information for the Conifer Historical Society. You can find their website at www.coniferhistoricalsociety.org. Their email is info@coniferhistoricalsociety.org. You can phone them at 303-736-9963. Their Facebook, just look for Conifer Historical Society. The Society's home is 26951 Barkley Road, Conifer, Colorado, 80433. And their mailing address is P.O. Box 295, Conifer, Colorado, 80433. Send them a check. That all sound right?
Sounds perfect.
Okay. I think we should take a break, Christa.
All righty. It's been so fun to dig into what's so important to our community. I can't wait to share more.
Thank you, Christa. Listeners, we'll be right back after an important message about lending your support to the Conifer Historical Society.
Some places tell their story through monuments. Others tell it through people. Conifer, Colorado, a mountain community with roots reaching back thousands of years, is one of those places. From ancient travelers following the Ute Trail to 19th century settlers establishing homesteads along the Bradford Toll Road, to modern residents commuting along Highway 285, the story of Conifer has always been shaped by connection. And today, the Conifer Historical Society continues that tradition, preserving landmarks like the Little White Schoolhouse and interpreting the journey from early homestead life to modern mountain community. But preservation is not a solitary effort. It's a shared commitment. Donations and memberships in the Conifer Historical Society help support the preservation of historic properties, maintain educational programming, protect local archives and artifacts, and ensure future generations can understand how this community evolved from stage stop to ranching settlement to a thriving modern foothills town.
When you donate or become a member, you're not just supporting a museum, you're investing in memory. You're helping safeguard the legacy of those who built the first one-room schools, established early farms and ranches, and helped Conifer grow. To learn more about donating or becoming a member, visit coniferhistoricalsociety.org and click on the Support tab. Because when communities remember their past, they build a stronger future.
Welcome to the Genealogy Lab, where curiosity meets discovery. Here's professional genealogist Diana Chrisman-Smith, a seasoned explorer of family histories, uncovering the evidence that connects us across generations. Diana opens the lab doors, and inside her lab, she'll share quick tips, cool discoveries, and smart tools to help you map out your roots like a pro. So, grab your notebooks. It's time to enhance your research with this segment of the Genealogy Lab.
Welcome to the Genealogy Lab. Pull up a chair and join me for a bit of curiosity and discovery. Last time in the lab, we discussed original and derivative sources, primary and secondary information, and why that's important. Knowing who provided the information can make it clearer whether it's worthy of believing. But there are other factors to be evaluated in a source as well. Each source should first be evaluated to determine whether it is relevant to the question posed. You should always have a question to be answered by your research, not just, what can I find about John? So for every piece of information in every source you consult, it is important to critically analyze it for accuracy, validity, and potential bias. In genealogy, we may often find numerous records which mention a particular event or relationship, and they don't always agree on the details. Understanding who provided the information is the first step in this analysis. Does that person have reason to know the information firsthand? Does that person have reason to be biased about the facts? Next, why was the record created? Was it for a purpose related to the event itself? For example, is it an official record of a birth, marriage, or death? Or is it a newspaper account? Or is it a reference in a church book? Or is it a mention in a letter, diary, or other document? Each of these carries different weight in analyzing the accuracy and validity of a source. Also, was the record created at or near the time of the event? Or was it many months, years, or decades later? Memories often fade, or events become distorted by history. So the further from the event the record was created, the more opportunity for error to have been introduced. If the source itself seems relevant and from a reliable source, then what about the information? Is that from a reliable witness? What facts are provided? And are they facts that witness is likely to have known? Are the events described adequately to be sure it's the right one? Does the evidence provide the answer to the question? Finally, compare the information in this source with other information you have from other sources. If they agree, that's probably a good thing, unless one copied another mindlessly. If they disagree, is there a logical reason for the discrepancy? Be sure you look at this carefully. Just because there are 20 sources that say John's father was William, look at where they got that information. If 19 of those sources cite the other one as their source, they don't count as independent sources. For more information on evaluating sources, information, and evidence, here are some resources I find very helpful. Elizabeth Shawn Mills has some wonderful resources for evaluating evidence, such as her blogs at historicpathways.com or her book, Citing History Sources from Artifacts to Cyberspace. Dr. Thomas W. Jones has Mastering Genealogical Proof, which explains many aspects of analyzing information in genealogy. The Family Search Wiki, look for the page titled Evaluate the Evidence. And on Cindy's list, search for her topic, Evidence, Analysis, and Evaluation, to see the many links she has available there. Remember to carefully analyze every piece of information you find. Go through each of the factors discussed here and others in one of the sources mentioned. Compare all the sources you have used to find any issues or discrepancies. And of course, don't forget to do a, quote, reasonably exhaustive search, unquote, every time. Stopping at the first record is not a good way to find the truth of the facts we are seeking. Well, that's it for today. Join me for the next genealogy lab as we explore using timelines to solve puzzles. Stay curious. This is Diana Chrisman-Smith, and I'll see you from my lab next time.
You've been inside the Genealogy Lab with Diana Chrisman-Smith, where every clue, every record, and every story brings us one step closer to knowing who we are. Stay curious and stay tuned for more from Preservation Oaks.
And now, back to Preservation Oaks.
Welcome back to Preservation Oaks. I'm your host, Sean Radcliffe, and we're here today with Christa Johnson from the Conifer Historical Society, located in Conifer, Colorado. Beautiful Conifer, Colorado, that is. Let's pick up where we left off. Welcome back, Christa.
So good to be here.
Christa, in what ways does your organization engage with the community, and what are its main objectives along with the demographic makeup of its members?
It's really important for us that we share what we discover. All of us on the Historical Society love doing research. We love uncovering things, but it's hard to do. It's not always familiar for people. So that's one of our primary missions, is to find these stories, document our history, preserve our history, and share it. We do that in a few different ways then. We give tours of our historic 103-year-old schoolhouse as a museum, but also just tours flat out. Even when we sell items from the gift shop, you can buy it online and then come pick up the items. We provide mini tours when they pick up their items. More formally, we go out into the community, to coffee houses, luncheons at churches, town hall meetings, and sort of spread the word and spread our knowledge so that we're making it approachable and familiar to other people. Yearly, we even go out into the schools to do what we call then and now programs with the fourth graders and really paint that picture of what it was like then and what it is like now, what they see on the street now. Although I say streets in quotes, as you know, from our area, but over the hillside and the mountainsides, what is out there now and what was it back then?
Right.
We also do an online book club that even reaches people outside of the area. And we have a very, very visible presence on the internet in terms of our social media presence and our website presence. We've got a lot of information out there to share with people.
Where did you get your history? I'm a little confused because Conifer and Bradford Junction never really had a downtown. They never really had a courthouse. There were no records. So at some point, somebody wrote a book about Conifer. Is that how you collectively recorded your history?
It's been through a couple different sources. So it's a very tight community, and there are some families who have been here for generations.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of those families, of course, since they love this area, they're tight-knit together, and we've gathered histories directly from them. There is also a book that I kind of call the Bible of Conifer's history, and it's called Upper Side of the Pie Crust. And Barbara, who wrote that, did an incredible amount of research and has sections on all the different families, quotes from their family members, other research that she did as well. But you're right, it's not easy to get to. So there's a lot of digging that you have to do into county records, some of which are digitized, some of which aren't. Books like Upper Side of the Pie Crust, which is a really big book that, shameless plug, we sell in our online gift shop.
Yes, you do. And I hope everybody gets it.
And then we also have a number of other smaller books. So if you were to come into my office and look at my bookshelf, I have one entire bookshelf just of these tiny, smaller books that have things about murders in Conifer or scandals in Conifer, or there's one that's called Homesteaders, Moonshiners, and Whiskey or something like that. So you sort of cobble these all together and eventually it starts to all come together. So when I do my research, that's what I do. I pull out all these books and I go online to the county and I just start cobbling things together. And that's how you eventually get that story. One really incredible resource is Colorado Historical Newspapers.
Yeah.
It's an online resource and it is amazing. And you can find out the most important things or the most silly things, such as who had dinner with whom on whatever date in 1800.
Right.
But it paints the picture of that lifestyle. So it's incredible research.
Did Conifer have a newspaper?
It didn't, except there was an outlying, well, it's part of Conifer now. It's this area that's called Critchell, but it actually literally used to be a town, Critchell. And it had its own newspaper because it was a mining town. Okay. So the other thing that's interesting about our area is what we now call Conifer used to be a string of little different pearls of what they called settlements. So Critchell being one of them. And there were other of those along that, what we now consider a highway. And then eventually it sort of reached critical mass and they all banded together into this unincorporated area. But Critchell had its own newspaper. Evergreen, our neighboring community, had its own newspaper that incorporated Conifer News. It was called the Canyon Courier. And then down a little bit further south is a town called Pine and into Park County. And that one used to have the High Timber Times. And the High Timber Times included news from Conifer as well. So we were kind of sort of adopted by a whole bunch of other different newspapers.
You have such an interesting area. It's really got a rich history.
Yeah, and looks can be deceiving, right? Because you drive through this area and it's all really pretty and you see these rock outcroppings and there is a King Soopers and a Safeway visible from there. But you sort of, you don't really get it unless you slow down and know what you're looking for. Because it doesn't, like you said before, have a downtown. So people kind of drive through it and sometimes don't know what they're missing. So, but now with your podcast, they will know what they're missing.
Yep. Stop in Conifer. Great place to be. Christa, what's the society doing to celebrate Colorado's 150th and our nation's 250th anniversaries?
So some of our events that are coming up are focused around that. We are doing things about the silver industry, specifically, which is around the silver crash, but sort of tangentially related to that. We're also contributing articles to the Jefferson County annual publication. And that theme this year will be the nation's 250, Colorado 150th, and then Jefferson County celebration around that as well. I am going to be contributing an article about the immigrants and their story and what brought them to this county, this area, and this state, because there's an incredible number of different drivers and different reasons why they all came here. So we're all doing our part to paint that picture. And then this summer, we will have sort of focusing our annual summer celebration around this celebration as well.
Oh, very cool. So have you always been in Conifer? What's been your personal path? How did it guide you to your current position within the organization?
Yeah, so I moved to this area, actually Evergreen, in 1997, just because my husband and I wanted to. We're originally from the Chicago suburbs, and I am actually first generation German. My parents came over here in the very early 60s. I just love researching the history of my family. I've even done what you would kind of call a pilgrimage, taking a whole vacation for my husband Kurt, that had to do this with me, to just tour through the various places my mom and dad and grandparents lived. It was really important, and their history is really important to me because they were in World War II and lost all their properties and all of their belongings multiple times over as a result of bombings and the changes in land borders and so forth. So since all of my family is back in that home country in Germany, I have always just wanted to connect with my family's history and just in general start doing that. And when I moved to this area, I actually lived in Conifer, I attended one of those events that we offer, where we have a speaker and so forth. This one, I think, was about Native American history, which I'm also a huge fan of, as you can tell. And I was hooked because everybody was super friendly. It was really educational. It was very approachable. And so I volunteered, and I've kind of loved it ever since. The group is brainy, but also really fun. And I think overall, we're not professionals. We're just lovers of history. So we just have fun with it. We make sure that it's legit and that it's credentialed and authorized and researched and so forth. But it's our love for it and our interest in it that got all of us started.
Yeah, fantastic. I just released an episode called the Colorado Chapter Palatines to America. It's all about German ancestry, and there's a Colorado chapter that you could join if you're interested.
Oh, I am definitely going to do that. Thank you for that tip. That actually is a great resource for the research that I am going to do.
Yep, they do a great job. And thank you for sharing your personal path.
You're welcome.
Are there any upcoming events or exhibitions that you think the community will find particularly engaging?
Yeah, so in April, very soon, we're going to have author John Steinley come in and do a presentation and sort of discussion about his book titled Colorado and the Silver Crash. So that's going to be really great. John is a super animated presenter, really great in terms of being able to just have a conversation with someone ad hoc instead of it being a formal presentation. So it's really an interactive kind of event. In June, we also are going to do an event focused on military history. There's a lot of strong military ties around here, both historically and present. So we're going to get a bunch of groups together on that. In the summer, that barn that I was mentioning has been remodeled, and we're going to have an opening for it as part of that summer gathering. Music, historical exhibits. We always have a really good bluegrass band there and some food. And outside of that, we're kind of filling in our event calendar. So just check out our website for all the events. You can buy tickets online.
Cool. Does the Historical Society own the barn?
We do. Yep. It is all part of that greater property. It's a smaller property, but it's got the schoolhouse, it has a barn, it has a little, what used to be sort of an outhouse, and then an annex building where we store a lot of our collections.
Oh, that's very cool. I didn't know you owned the barn. That's great. I thought it was privately owned.
Yeah.
Now, can you share any funny or intriguing stories from your organization's history that stand out to you?
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind, because the little schoolhouse is such a big thing for us, right? Even though it's little. And what really stands out when I think about this is when people come visit us and they say, I went to school here. So you think about this schoolhouse built in, way back in the day, but some of them went there as recently as 2013.
Really?
And yeah, so it's cool. It kind of evolved from this one-room schoolhouse to being a legitimate Jefferson County school as it kind of got more formalized. It was grades 1 through 8. And then it would go on to high school, and they had to pay tuition and get a ride into Evergreen. Because for some of these people, it's the only school they ever attended. And so some of the visitors through the year will come through and they will just tell us stories about what they had, what they learned there, who their teachers were, and so forth. Eventually, some of these folks back in the day had to go down, live with relatives down the hill to attend high school too. But those memories that they share is now part of sort of our everyday when we go in there. We even had a reunion in 1983, and many students from the past attended. One of the teachers even came and talked to the children who were attending school at the time. It was a school, preschool at the time, and told them what the school was like in the early days. So picture you had preschoolers there and then people who went there as sort of a one-room schoolhouse, all kind of converging together. It was really beautiful.
Oh, that's very cool. Now, with the barn and with the Little White Schoolhouse, you probably have a lot of exhibit space. What kinds of displays or exhibits are available for visitors to experience at your facilities right now?
Yeah, so something to keep in mind is that our museum is operating a little bit differently than some. We display exhibits during our events and then give tours upon request. So just something to keep in mind if you come to our area. Always reach out to us. We're always happy to open it up. We have a full history of the Conifer area as one exhibit. It has landmarks on a map. It has the huge history of Bradford Junction. Over the years, about 100 years worth of history and all the different families and where they came from and what they added to the land. We even have highlights of other landmarks. There's this beautiful 4-star restaurant, maybe even 5-star restaurant that used to operate right around here. Actually was built by the grandfather of who is now our board president, Aaron. So that's really neat, but it was a gorgeous restaurant. We actually have the old leaded glass window from that. And then we have exhibits on mining, ski hills of the foothills. There actually used to be a ski hill that was right in Conifer with a tow rope that was run by an engine that was a car engine. Yeah, that was fun. And there actually are some old ones that you can kind of see up on the hillside. There's actually a new one, too, that somebody put in on their own private property. Lucky guy. But every once in a while, you'll see some white streaks where there's more snow than there should be, and you'll know there used to be a ski run somewhere. We even have a complete set of bound Rocky Mountain newspapers from dating back to 1884. And people love that. They're huge and they're bound together in these big leather books. We even have a door of a potbelly stove. Once upon a time, there was a hot lunch program that was added to our schoolhouse with the New Deal. And in one of those, coincidentally, one of those newspapers, the teacher reported that it consisted of a potbelly stove in the basement of the school with a pot of soup. So, and the teacher would provide the soup. So we have the door of that potbelly stove. So all kinds of really cool things, including locations on all the homesteads. So we can help you with that.
We don't know how lucky we are today, you know?
Right. Exactly. Microwave instead of potbelly stove.
Yeah. Or, you know, the kids go to school and they go into a cafeteria kind of thing. And then, you know, they get a plate and they get all this food and go and sit down and eat. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, and they have choices. Whereas here, it would have been this soup or nothing.
Yeah. We're having soup.
Right. Like it or leave it.
Now, can you describe the museum's collection management policies and procedures and how it cares for its artifacts?
Yeah, so as much as we are a small and mighty crew, we catalog every minute item we receive, from a screw to a tool to even the large set of memoirs that we sometimes get. There's this fancy historian term for that, and it's called accessioning.
Right.
We store all those items really carefully to ensure that we can preserve them as best as we're able. And when we get it, we get all the necessary research to give it some background and context. And then sometimes, depending on what the item is, we create an event around it so members of the public can come see it. And we use the tool called Catalog It. Okay. And that is an online resource where we take a picture, we put all the information on it, and that way any of us can know what we have. And it's really easy then to delve into what we have and how to use it and how we can spread the word about it.
I've had a few organizations that use Catalog It and say it's really useful and works really well for them.
Yeah, it's really easy because you can snap a picture on your mobile phone and upload it right onto the site instead of having to take a picture and then put it on a computer and then upload it into the cloud from there. So the fact that it's cloud-based is great. The fact that it's mobile-friendly is great. And it really is a very intuitive interface, so highly recommend it.
Very cool. Thank you for that. Speaking of artifacts, can you highlight any recent restoration efforts or preservation projects for your exhibits?
Yeah, so that little barn used to be a pretty rough, old, rustic shell, dirt floor, the whole 9 yards. And we took it from that rustic, adorable, but sort of shabby existence to actually a new museum exhibit space. It is now completely repainted. The interior has finished walls as well. We poured, just out of practicality's sake, a cement floor in there, rigged it up with lighting. Now it has sort of these flickering lantern lights hanging in there. And it houses a restored buggy that we actually got from one of the neighborhood pioneer families, and also tools from the turn of the last century. So it is probably the nicest part of our museum now because it's the newest, and the volunteer hours that went into it were incredible. It was fun that at a certain point we were finishing up the restoration. We noticed that the gutters were getting a little bit, well, they'd seen better days, and we didn't want all of this hard work to go to ruin and sort of erode things and erode the side of the building. So we did a little social media campaign to raise funds for it. And wouldn't you know it, our community raised nearly $1,000 in just 2 or 3 days, just because they love that property so much. So we're so grateful.
Yeah, you really got to pay attention to your roof and gutters out there with all the snow you get.
Yeah, absolutely. And the land around it can really erode if we don't take care of that. And then it can ruin other things on the property too. So yeah, we're very fortunate.
What's the most valuable ancient or popular exhibit or artifact in your collection?
Yeah, so it's one that's just about to become in our collection. So we are about to receive the complete, what they call the Meyer Ranch collection from the Meyer family. So that Victorian house that used to be a stage stop was later purchased and owned by the Norm Meyer family. They actually, little known fact, actually ended up putting in a pool, if you can believe it, in the property behind their house. Nobody really can see that, and now I've spoiled it for everybody, but they are a very, very important family in this area. They have donated a lot. They donated their entire property to open space, Jefferson County Open Space. Norm was a very interesting character because one of the things on that property is a very long, wide barn, and that's where he used to store his private plane because he used to be a pilot. So all of the letters and pictures and other sorts of historical artifacts related to that property is going to be part of our collection. They're finishing pulling that together. And that includes some oral histories as well. We have some oral histories from Norm already, but we're then going to get more of them, and we're scheduling some more sessions with Sharon Meyer, Norm's daughter, because she has a lot of stories about growing up on the ranch. So that is something that is just going to be this jewel of our collection.
That's What a wonderful acquisition. Wow. When is that taking place?
So we got our hands on it a couple months ago, and then it's being used for something else. And it's probably going to be in the next couple of months, at least within the next 6 months, that we'll actually get it back and finish up our recording and assessing of it.
Wow. That's going to be really something for the people of Conifer. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Nice job. What steps is your organization taking to digitize documents and photos, and how will this improve accessibility for future generations?
So I mentioned that we use Catalog It, and that is going to be really pivotal. It is pivotal right now in terms of it being important to record each artifact, but it's that central landing space for everything. We hope to eventually try and make it accessible in some way so that people can look at these cool things, even if they can't physically come look at it. And something that's just really important, but kind of silly, or seems silly simple, is sharing photos on our website. People love seeing the pictures of what it used to be versus what it is. And so flat out just creating an organized storage of those in the cloud, and then also organizing things on our website, including sharing oral histories. We have a great partnership by a gentleman who does then and now photography. He has a Facebook page as well. And we have a whole presentation from him on our website that shows old postcards or photographs of these things in our area and then what they look like now. And it is an incredible resource. So it's a simple thing, but we're just trying to share it out in the most simple way possible so people don't need to jump through hoops to get to know our history.
Yeah, that's really cool. Very cool. Could you give a brief summary of the size and variety within your collection?
Yeah. Last count, we have nearly 1,000 pieces, although I'm sure that's probably underrepresenting it because we haven't accessioned everything. It just kind of takes time. So that's everything from a hammer, a drill bit, those objects like that, photos, even photos of community events, and then photos of all the teachers that used to teach in these schoolhouses with these sweet girls with pretty dresses and their hair pulled up and so forth. We've got oral histories and even some family history documents. There are a couple families, not just the Myers, who have shared with us these letters that their families have written or articles that they've written. And more people are sort of perking up to that these things are not just something that grandpa or great-great-great-grandpa did. They're a slice of history. And I was talking with a woman the other day who was considering, she hasn't decided this yet, but she was considering giving us these paintings that her mother had painted because she was a famous painter in this area. And she loves them, but she doesn't have children, and so she didn't know where to go with them. And I said, no, we'll take them and we can do an exhibit on it and so forth. So there's always these things that are special to someone. They don't know if it's going to be special to someone else, but it is special to us. And so we're proud to be able to take care of it for them and give it a home and give it some limelight if we can.
Absolutely. It's so important for your town, for your area, because you didn't have a downtown and a town hall and all that stuff. You're right. It's the oral histories, it's the photographs, it's those kind of ephemera that are going to tell the story of Conifer.
Yeah, even things that are back in like the recent history, like the 70s and 80s, right? Those paint a picture of a very different lifestyle than what others might have thought would have been common in the 70s and 80s. Certainly different than what I grew up with in the Chicago suburbs during that time.
Right.
So it's really neat to see people gathered together in the Yellow Barn doing a community craft fair with quilts and things like that. It's just super folksy, and it's that little snapshot in time that tells you over the years what it was like up here.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and it's still happening.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an initiative to add an online search feature for your collection?
Yeah, it's in my mind there is, but not officially yet. With additional volunteers, I think we could get there, but we're just slowly gathering things over time and putting things online we need to then figure out a way to integrate, catalog it, and our other resources to make it more searchable. Because again, our focus is to make that accessible and not be in one of those situations where you have to know somebody and ask them and see if they can get you in. We want it to be completely open source.
Cool. Very cool. And Conifer is growing. It continues to grow, and it's being modernized all the time, and it's just a growing community. And so there should be lots of volunteers coming forward.
I hope so.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Christa, but it's time for us to take a break for a few minutes.
Okay, thanks for the chance to recharge. We've been talking about so many great things, so I'll rest up a little bit.
Thank you for that. Listeners, we'll be right back after an important message regarding volunteering to help preserve and share history with the Conifer Historical Society.
Have you ever wondered what it means to truly make a difference in your community? Not through grand gestures, but through quiet, meaningful acts that help preserve the story of a place. Nestled in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, just 33 miles southwest of Denver, the Conifer Historical Society works to ensure that the story of this unique mountain community is not forgotten. This is a place where history stretches back at least 12,000 years, where ancient travelers once followed the Ute Trail through the foothills, where stagecoaches once stopped at Bradford Junction on their way to the mining towns, and where early settlers built modest homesteads using logs and stone from the very land beneath their feet. Today, that history lives on through preserved sites like the Little White Schoolhouse, once a one-room school serving the growing community in the late 1800s. And that preservation doesn't happen on its own. It happens because of volunteers. Volunteers who help maintain exhibits.
Volunteers who assist with outreach.
Volunteers who help keep community memory alive. As Conifer has grown from just over 400 residents in 1950 to more than 9,000 today, the importance of protecting its heritage has only increased. And you can be part of that effort.
Whether your passion is history, community engagement, education, or simply giving back, the Conifer Historical Society welcomes those willing to lend their time and energy to preserving the story of this remarkable place. To learn how you can get involved, visit coniferhistoricalsociety.org and click on the support tab, because history isn't just something we inherit, it's something we protect together.
Breaking news.
I'm Jane Turgill with PO News. And now, here's our own Dan Shoemaker live in the field with a startling discovery just made. Over to you, Dan.
Thank you, Jane. During our exhaustive research into the forgotten history of Colorado, we've received astonishing news from the Historical Society. They've informed us that a groundbreaking artifact was recently unearthed near the old schoolhouse grounds, using the same careful archaeological techniques typically reserved for dinosaur fossils and ancient Egyptian tombs. After months of carbon dating, spectral analysis, and consultation with experts from the Smithsonian, they've determined this remarkable discovery dates all the way back to the early 1980s. It appears to be a fully preserved cassette tape of a Denver Broncos game, complete with the original static and muffled commentary, which leading historians believe may have been intentionally buried there during the Great Snowstorm of '83 as a time capsule for future generations. The Historical Society is reportedly applying for federal preservation grants to protect this cultural treasure and plans to display it alongside other significant historical artifacts, including a 1987 Big Gulp Cup and a partially used pack of New Kids on the Block trading cards. Now back to you, Jane.
Thanks, Dan. More breaking PO news later in our program.
Tune in to the Preservation Oaks podcast for some unfiltered fun with yours truly, Lisa Kinney, the lovable troublemaker and museum director at the Crossroads Museum in Corinth, Mississippi.
Hello, I'm Holly Cordill, Executive Director of Friends of Historic Meridian. If you love exploring, then join me on Preservation Oaks with Sean Radcliffe.
This is Garth Krewall from the Port Hope Area Historical Society. I had a lot of fun as a guest on Preservation Oaks.
9 out of 10 family historians agree Preservation Oaks is the best podcast on the internet.
Breaking news.
I'm Jane Turgill again, with PO News and more breaking news. This breaking news just coming into our studios. In the spirit of April Fool's Day, we should probably clarify that the artifact reported by Dan Shoemaker to have been found was not actually found by archaeologists, but rather by Dave's nephew while digging for worms behind the school. The experts who examined it were actually Dave and his buddy Rick after 3 beers, and the only thing remarkable about the cassette is that it still plays the Broncos' heartbreaking loss to the Raiders in the 1983 season finale. This is Jane Turgill with PO News.
Welcome back to Preservation Oaks. I'm your host, Sean Radcliffe, and we're here today with Christa Johnson from the Conifer Historical Society located in Conifer, Colorado. I'm learning a lot, Christa. Thank you so much, and welcome back.
I am so happy to share it with you, and you're getting me excited about things that I already thought I was excited about.
Well, yeah, it's a wonderful community. You should be really excited, and you're making such a difference there. Can you tell us about the funding sources for your organization and what financial goals you're working toward this year?
Yeah, so of course we take donations from the public, either ongoing or ad hoc, and as the spirit moves you. It's always a wonderful thing if you can make us part of your trust or will as well. We have a really great event program, and that is 100% funding not only the events, but our other activities too. So none of our presenters are usually getting any kind of stipend. They do it out of the goodness of their hearts. So those event tickets are great fundraising too. We have a great gift shop, and all those gift shop sales go to fund us. Book sales, like the Upper Side of the Pie Crust that we talked about. We also have a great Colorado site called Colorado Gives, and once a year they'll do a large fundraising effort where they'll do matching funds. So the more people donate during that time, the higher percentage of those matching funds any organization, including us, gets. And then one thing that some people don't know about is that we also allow people to book the Little White Schoolhouse for personal gathering. I mean,
cool.
Micro weddings are such a thing now, and it's an adorable space. Plenty of room in there to host a micro wedding or any kind of, maybe anniversary or maybe a group that you're a member of. And then there's also an outside area with picnic tables and shade and that sort of thing. So, as well as a huge porch. So it's a really cool space that you can rent as well. And that's another fundraising opportunity for us.
Cool. Do you sell any online shopping coins or a brick or any of that kind of thing?
We don't yet, but we're thinking about doing something in our upcoming event where we'll be housing a time capsule on the property. So stay tuned for that. There might be some way to memorialize yourself or your loved one or what have you as part of that.
Gosh, that's a good idea. Nice job. I like that idea. So in what ways does membership support your organization, and what membership options can people choose from?
So we've got everything from individual memberships all the way over to executive level memberships, but really approachable, $25 to $75. Household memberships as well that include up to 2 adults and all the children in your household. Business and executive memberships that include up to 4 members of your team or your organization. And if you have an executive level membership, you also receive 1 sponsorship or supporter logo at our events and other advertising.
Cool.
When you choose the annual subscription, you're going to get 1 ticket to one of our events, but you also get a 20% discount on our other events and then 10% discount in our gift shop.
Wow, nice. That's some good benefits.
Yeah.
Christa, can you tell us about the ways your organization connects with the community through outreach and educational initiatives?
Yeah, so we talked about that we connect with the community sort of informally. We also go and do our schools, but those monthly events are really sort of the hub of how we connect and get outreach. Sometimes they're educational. We always have guest speakers. Last year, we even had speakers from the National Park Service. We have taught people, and will again this year, how to research your homestead. I'm going to be sharing some exact examples of how I've researched mine and show people every step of the way how to do it themselves. We do presentations on landmarks in our area, pioneer families, and again, you can buy all your tickets online. And then it's sort of simple, but we do a huge amount of work on social media. We make all of our research available online, but we also love to share fun, little known facts, excerpts from the historical papers, and just bringing those stories to life, those little snippets, those everyday glimpses that help people to connect with the past and relate to the present.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. What are some of the main annual or holiday events hosted by your organization that the community looks forward to?
So that summer gathering started up last couple years, and we're doing it annually now. It has exhibits, even has other historical societies in the area come and display too, because we just like to have everybody get in on it together. Local bluegrass music, events and activities for adults and children. We even had the Morrison History Museum, which is all around dinosaurs, come up and do an exhibit, and they brought like a big Tyrannosaurus Rex space and all this kind of stuff. So it was really cool. So that's a great one in the summer. In the fall, I do a cemetery tour, and we pick the different cemeteries in the area. And we had a ton of people last year, over 75 people come just in one day. And I tell stories of these families. Sometimes they are wholesome stories. Sometimes they're quite notorious. And every once in a while you get some creepy stories too. But we don't try and fixate just on the morbid. We do try and just make it entertaining. And sometimes it comes in a variety of different ways. And then over the holidays, we have a gift fair, local artists and museum exhibits sort of all pulled into one.
Oh, I bet that's fun. Does your organization have a newsletter?
Yep, we do a monthly email newsletter. It's available to the public. You can just sign up online. You don't have to be a member. We always share some local history and then alerts about our events and even alerts about other events. We love to support are other communities and historical communities in the area. So we cross-promote those as well.
Oh, that's cool. Are those archived at the Historical Society or online for members or at the local library?
No, they're just, you get them in your email. We do have some old newsletters that used to be printed, and those are online. And those are actually more like little mini books.
Yeah.
So we've got those stashed away, and we've got tons of research in there as well. So I would highly recommend somebody perusing through that.
Oh, cool. Thanks for that. Does your organization host an annual awards event, and what's its purpose or focus?
We don't, but the Jefferson County Historical Commission does. They annually in the fall host a Hall of Fame award. It is a great event that has tons of energy and a lot of people that come to it. It's about featuring people who made significant historical contributions in the past as well as in the present. So you'll hear presentations about those people and also some major landmarks that are designated and identified each year. It's a really, really energetic event.
Very cool. Now, volunteers, of course, are the heartbeat of everything, and I think you're a volunteer as well. What volunteer roles does your organization offer for community members interested in getting involved?
Yeah, we're really flexible in terms of how someone wants to volunteer, what talents they want to use. So it can be something as simple as helping man some of the events. You can even dream up events and organize them. So really you can see how it spans a big continuum. We love to have people on the board as well. We have some open board positions. If there is an artistic bent in you, would love to have you help do design and promotion and website maintenance. Of course, history research, and that can come in all forms, either one homestead at a time, one person at a time, or an entire era, you name it. We talked about the accessioning. That is a continuous sort of amount of work. So dealing with those local collections and accessioning them and making sure that we're cataloging them. In all, we try to accommodate that reality of our mountain neighborhoods, right? So sometimes people can get to things easily, sometimes they don't. So we try and have a mix of volunteer efforts that can be done from home or done in person or done both if you want. And a lot of our meetings, most of our meetings actually, are done via Zoom online. So it's really, really convenient to volunteer with us.
Very cool. I think doing the research on Conifer would be such a wonderful challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'd have to go to the county and you'd have to go to the state and everywhere else to try to get information about Conifer and its history.
And we're always really, helpful with new volunteers who maybe don't know where to go. So we are never going to hoard our resources or our sources. I can tell you exactly what I use.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for that. Christa, in what ways does your organization work alongside other historical and museum organizations locally or beyond?
We have really close relationships with the other local historical societies. The way to look at it too, and why we do this, is that our physical boundaries are not really reflective of what those community boundaries are or were. The people used to travel over the hillsides on horseback or walking versus those mountain roads. So even like in the neighborhood that I live in, which is technically Conifer, some of those families had parents or brothers or sisters or what have you that were actually families in Pine too, because it's just over the hillside. So we've actually done cooperative events together. And we're all kind of small too, right? We could all use some help for each other. So an event that's done cooperatively looks something like, for example, I'll do the promotion on our side, and then they'll tour the sites down in Pine. Pine is a great historical area right there, and we all are sort of sister cities. They actually do have a downtown. I highly encourage you to go to Pine. It's a fascinating town filled with railroad history and a lot of bars, actually, and saloons and murders in that area. So also very fascinating. So we promoted it and brought in all the folks from all the surrounding areas, and they dressed up in their period garb and gave us a walking tour of Pine. It was fantastic. So we really try and just sort of band together. And then I might have mentioned the Jefferson County Historical Commission. We have representation on that board in the form of me, but they find it really important to have that mountain community presence because they know it is materially different than down in some of the other suburban communities. So that Jefferson County Historical Commission support is super important to us too.
Very cool. I was laughing the other day. I think it was in Conifer, but it could have been another community. I saw a bar called the Elk Snort Bar.
The Buck Snort.
Buck Snort, that's
Snort.
it. Yeah.
Yep. I can actually see the rock outcroppings above the Buck Snort from my deck. It is quite a place. It used to be a general store. Now it is a bar, long-standing. And if you were to come down into my family room, you would also see an old poster from the 80s that they made for a brew that they had. I think it was called the Antler Brew or something like that. So it is my family, every time they come to visit me, they always want to go there.
Oh, yeah, of course. I hope they sell T-shirts.
They do.
Oh, cool.
As a matter of fact, when my brother was in Iraq, I sent him a Buck Snort hat, and he still has it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, you were talking earlier about oral history interviews. I know your organization does them. Do you still do them, and who typically participates in those recordings?
Yeah, we do still do them. Typically, it's descendants of our pioneer families. And we have a beautiful woman by the name of Carla on our team. She actually used to be a teacher at the Little White Schoolhouse, and she does a lot of these, but it's usually those family stories, right? Sometimes we even do video recordings too, so that we can memorialize that. Sometimes we even do it on attendance in a memorable event or something like that. So it could be around a family, could be around events, it could be a bunch of people, or usually it's one or two people sitting around, coffee and just talking through things very informally and sharing whatever they like to share.
Oh, very cool. I'm glad you're doing that. That's excellent work.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you have a wonderful gift shop on your website. Can you talk about that for a moment, what people can see there or buy there?
Yeah, it's largely things that either you can't find elsewhere or you have a really hard time cobbling them together. We've got a wide variety of historical books. And when I say history books, it's not like what we had in school where it's just facts and figures. They truly are stories. I mentioned John Steinley's Colorado and the Silver Crash. There's the upper side of the pie crust, which is the Bible for Conifer. But then there's all kinds of other storylines. Women along Pike Peak's history. There's different things in terms of murder mysteries. There's people who did various moonshining kind of expeditions. So there's all kinds of different things. There really is. Oh, we have cookbooks too, which is wonderful. There's really, these books are not just boring books. So I'll stop talking about those and tell you then too that there is also some really wonderful art, literally paintings and photographs, high quality, pottery, woodcraft, jewelry, all from local artists. So you can buy them online and then pick them up. We're not really great about shipping things a lot, although I'm sure you could talk us into it. We're just kind of still small town about that, and it's kind of an expensive software program for us, but we make it easy for you. So you just let us know what you want. And if you happen to come pick it up, we might just give you a tour of that barn and the schoolhouse if you want to.
Oh, that's very cool. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm a sucker for cookbooks and history books, let me tell you. You should see my studio. It's just chock full on every corner of books.
Good, I'm not alone.
Listeners, I'd like to provide you with the contact information for the organization once again. You can find their website at www.coniferhistoricalsociety.org. You can email them at info@coniferhistoricalsociety.org. Their phone number is 303-736-9963. You can find them on Facebook at the Conifer Historical Society. Their society home is 26951 Barkley Road, Conifer, Colorado 80433. Their mailing address is P.O. Box 295, Conifer, Colorado 80433. Christa, what resources and interactive features are available for visitors to explore on your website?
Our website is just 100% open, not gated at all. You don't have to be a member to get all the good stuff on there. As soon as we do research, we put it on there, constantly updating and adding. We have profiles on pioneers and their families, description of the different buildings and landmarks and their history as well. I'm about to beef up the one on Bradford Junction and Little Barn and add in several, probably about 50 years worth of history in there. We have a whole host of historic photos, landmarks, people, themes, those sorts of things. We also have some of those oral histories, or a number of them, and some videos. We have a few virtual tours, so those of you who maybe are listening to this and aren't from here and can't get up here anytime soon, there is a presentation video kind of tour that you can see and virtually drive around the area. And then those newsletters from days gone by are on there, but they are just as relevant today because they have a ton of research. And alternately, you can, as I mentioned, find us on social media on Facebook and Instagram and just get little tidbits doled out over time, find out about our events, and then even link back to some of the deeper research that we do.
Very cool. Yeah, it's a nice website, folks. I encourage you all to go there and have fun. Christa, what are the most effective ways for individuals to contribute financially to your organization? And what donation options do you offer?
Yeah, we've got a donation section on our site. We do accept credit cards, although you can sure send us checks if you want. Seasonally, we have the Colorado Gives page that we'll link over to as well, which accepts credit cards and gives matching funds. And other than that, you can also donate your time.
Oh, fantastic. What initiatives is your organization implementing to engage young volunteers and leverage their skills in your programs?
Yeah, we support our students with a lot of local history research. One of the things that we did a couple months back is there was a student who was taking a history class, and Carla and I sat down with him and just talked to him about the area's history, and he did a whole recording and kind of like a book on it, not literally a book, but a school version of a book on it. So that's great. We also give talks at the schools about that local history. And most recently, we've been talking to a few people about doing internships. And that's a good option for young adults as well, because as opposed to some of those bigger organizations, with us, you could probably do more directly. And if you're in this area, kind of connect with your homes at a deeper level at the same time. So anybody interested in internships is welcome to contact us too.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Sounds like that kid's going to be a historian.
I hope so.
What ongoing initiatives or pressing needs does your organization have that community members can support right now?
I would say volunteering would be one of the biggest things that we could use your support on. We have a lot of energy and passion behind it, but we know that there's more to do than we can do ourselves. And any volunteering would be absolutely grateful. We'd be very grateful for it. The other part is the upkeep of our property. We have got a wonderful set of volunteers, Michelle and her husband, Dwayne, who do this on a regular basis. But we're going to have a event coming up where you are welcome to pull weeds if you'd like, and paint, and scrape paint, and stain, and so forth. So as you can see, just good old sweat equity and your time and your love of our history is what we could use just as much as financial contributions.
Okay, thank you. Christa, what distinctive contributions does your organization make to the community, and why do you feel these efforts are essential?
We uncover a lot of hidden stories and share them more broadly. I have talked to people who it's their ancestors, and I tell them something they didn't know. We get people excited about living here for more than just the beauty, which the beauty is astounding and jaw-dropping, but they see that there's a richness to this terrain as well. And because of our connection, we connect with those old timers so that the new timers can have those stories now and in the future. And we're happy to be sort of that conduit for the community.
Fantastic. Yeah, you're doing a great job. Does your organization take requests from the public for genealogical consulting or research assistance? And can you outline any free services your organization provides and those that require a fee, both from members and the public?
We absolutely do take requests. We will do it for organizations. We will do it for personal families. We can also teach you how to do it. Research the history of your property, which in this area is super relevant because it just looks like a big mountain, but really it was somebody's home. And we'd be happy to also put you in touch with some of the local organizations that will help you get funds to restore your property. There is a landmark designation for the Jefferson County Historical Commission that will help you then get in connection with funds, as well as then History Colorado, which is a higher bar. But through our historical community, we can get you in touch with those folks, but then also help you get the background that you need in order to fill out those applications.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, we're getting close to wrapping up here, Christa. Is there any additional message or important information you'd like to share with the community or your members?
Well, I think maybe it's not as important as it is encouraging. I would just say, please join us or your local historical society. Don't feel like you have to be an expert. Let your curiosity fuel you, and then you just become the expert. But that's, I think, the most important thing is if you're interested in it, just dig into it, look into it, and support those who are, even if you just want to sit there and listen.
Fantastic comments. Thank you. How does your organization measure the impact you have on visitors and the community? Do you use some form of management or metrics framework?
We do. We monitor the amount of attendees at events. We also monitor our website usage and social usage and figure out what's most popular content on social. We have discovered that people like places more than people, which is really interesting, even though they like people a lot. So we're really always tuning into how do we tell these stories and how do we tell in a way that evokes more reaction, more shares, more views, those sorts of things. We monitor closely which of our sort of related sharing on social will generate more traction as well. And then with our digital newsletter, we'll monitor open rates as well as then click-through rates because we try and nest the information on our site, but not make it, it's not like it's a big burden, but we can gauge interest by click-through rates as well to our site. So all those sorts of things, in addition to, of course, just fundraising and where those sources of fundraising comes, those are all sort of those metrics that we monitor.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. Well, Christa, our time is about up. I want to thank you for sharing your time and insights with us today. I've learned a lot. I'm grateful for the chance to hear about the amazing ways your organization benefits the community. It's been great chatting with you.
It's been wonderful getting to know you too, and you're doing such an important piece of work to spread the news about not just Conifer Historical Society, but all the rest of the organizations that you feature. And I'm just flat out grateful for letting me share about something I love so much. So thank you to you as well.
You're a great guest. Thank you. And with that, we'll end our time with our guest, Christa Johnson. Listeners, please stay tuned for my comments and wrap up, which is coming up next.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Theron. As this episode releases just after Easter Sunday, we'd like to pause for a moment and reflect on the history of this ancient and holy observance. Easter is a central celebration of the Christian faith. It commemorates the resurrection of Jesus Christ, an event described in the New Testament and believed by most historians to have taken place between the years 30 to 33 AD. Some historians and biblical scholars put the exact date of Christ's crucifixion as Friday, April 3rd, 33 AD. Jesus Christ, our Lord, was resurrected 3 days later. Christians have been marking this moment in history for nearly 2,000 years. As of this year, it'll be 1,993 years since the resurrection of Christ Jesus. To us, and many other Christian believers, the precise date matters far less than the meaning behind it. For nearly 2,000 years, people around the world have remembered the resurrection as a moment of hope and renewal. The historical debates are fascinating, but the enduring significance lies in the fact that Christ sacrificed himself for the world's sins in perfect obedience to God, then rose from the dead and ascended into heaven. It's a miracle that continues to inspire faith, reflection, and celebration across generations. The earliest followers of Christ began remembering the resurrection very soon after the events themselves. By the 2nd century, Christian communities across the Roman world were already gathering each spring to celebrate the miracle of Christ's victory over sin and death. In the year 325 AD, church leaders established the method still used today to determine the date of Easter as the first Sunday after the first full moon following the spring equinox. It is one of the oldest continuously observed commemorations in the world. Across centuries of history, through the rise and fall of kingdoms, through wars, migrations, and the changing of cultures, the message of Easter has endured. It speaks of renewal, of hope, and of the belief that even in the darkest moments, new life can emerge. For billions of people around the world, Easter remains a time of reflection, faith, and family. A moment when spring returns, when the earth begins to awaken again, and when an ancient miracle of hope and salvation continues to be remembered nearly 2,000 years after it first began. That idea connects beautifully with the work we talk about here on Preservation Oaks. History itself is an act of remembrance. It's a way of keeping the facts and significance of the past alive, honoring those who came before us, and carrying their memory forward into the future. The work of preserving history carries that same spirit of remembrance forward. Which brings us to today's episode, and to the people working hard to keep the story of Conifer, Colorado alive for future generations.
Welcome back. As we come to the close of today's episode, I find myself reflecting on just how special this conversation has been. Our guest, Ms. Christa Johnson of the Conifer Historical Society, has given us all something far more valuable than facts and dates. She's given us a window into a place where history isn't concentrated in one downtown street or preserved behind glass in a single grand building. but instead lives quietly across a landscape, in schoolhouses, along old toll roads, inside family stories, and within a community that still carries its past with dignity and care. We're fortunate, truly fortunate, to have somebody like Christa Johnson helping to preserve that story. She's dedicated, knowledgeable, thoughtful, and deeply committed to ensuring that the history of Conifer is not lost to time. Listening to her speak, hearing the way she connects people, place, and purpose, it's simply marvelous. These are the kinds of individuals who quietly hold the threads of our shared heritage together. And what we heard in this episode wasn't just history. It was human history. We heard about travelers moving through rugged mountain routes, speaking many different languages as they made their way toward opportunity. We heard about Bradford Junction, where stage stops, toll roads, and a simple water well became a lifeline for those heading into the unknown. We heard about children learning in one-room schoolhouses, about teachers carrying on with resilience, even keeping soup warm on a potbelly stove for their students. And we heard about former students, even in recent years, returning to that very same schoolhouse and saying, "I went to school here." That's history you can feel, and history that lives. And that's exactly what the Conifer Historical Society is preserving every single day. From their research efforts and oral histories to their exhibits, community programs, school outreach, and digital archives, they're doing the essential work of ensuring that this story continues to be told. Their collection now approaches nearly 1,000 artifacts, each one carefully accessioned, documented, and preserved. And with the upcoming edition of the Meyer Ranch collection, that story is about to grow even richer. But perhaps one of the most inspiring efforts underway is the restoration of the old yellow barn at Bradford Junction. This isn't just a building, it's a revival. Through volunteer labor, dedication, and community support, that barn has been transformed from a rustic shell into a functioning exhibit space, complete with new flooring, lighting, and curated displays. To the volunteers who made that happen, congratulations, everybody. That's no small feat. The entire community should be very proud. And now, with that space nearly ready, the opportunity ahead is tremendous. More exhibits, more stories, more connections, but also more need. The Conifer Historical Society needs volunteers. They need researchers who can dig into archives and uncover the deeper story of Bradford Junction and Conifer. They need helping hands to accession artifacts more quickly and properly. They need support so the museum can be open regularly and not just by appointment. They need community engagement so more events can be held, more families can participate, and yes, maybe even one day a sign along the freeway inviting travelers to stop and discover what lies just beyond the trees. And if you're listening today, you can be a part of that, because what we see in Conifer, Colorado is something deeply American. This is a place that helped build the nation, not through grand monuments, but through everyday work. Its toll roads carried the lifeblood of the gold rush. Its ranches and farms fed the workers who drove that expansion. Its timber supported the mines and built the infrastructure of a growing region. And along those rugged mountain routes, its homes and way stations offered rest, connection, and continuity. Conifer reminds us of something important. The American economy and the American story were not built in one place. They were built in thousands of places, just like Conifer. Quiet places, hard-working places, places where people simply did what needed to be done. Now, over time, things have changed. In the 1800s, mining was the reason places like Conifer existed. Today, in 2026, mining has largely faded from Jefferson County, replaced by technology, science, and service industries. But the foundation remains and the story still matters. Today, Conifer is an unincorporated community just outside Denver, growing, evolving, and becoming a wonderful place for families, for children, and for anyone who values the outdoors, strong schools, and a life connected to both nature and community. That spirit is already there. You can hear it in the stories. You can feel it in the land. and you can see it in the work being done by the Conifer Historical Society. This year, the region celebrates something truly special, a trifecta of anniversaries. The anniversary of Jefferson County of the state of Colorado, and the 250th anniversary of the United States. And there's no better time than now to reflect on the places that helped make all of that possible. So here's my invitation to you. Come to Conifer and make a little history. Visit the Conifer Junction Schoolhouse. Explore the newly restored Old Yellow Barn at Bradford Junction, both listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Attend an event. Volunteer your time. Donate an artifact. And if you have something tucked away, a photograph, a letter, a piece of family history, consider this. Don't let it sit unseen. Donate, 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 because your story may be the missing piece of someone else's history, especially in Conifer. If you'd like to learn more or get involved, you can visit their website at www.coniferhistoricalsociety.org. You can email them at info@coniferhistoricalsociety.org. You can phone them at 303-736-9963. On Facebook, just look for Conifer Historical Society. You can visit them in person at 26951 Barkley Road in Conifer, or send correspondence to P.O. Box 295, Conifer, Colorado. And as always, we encourage you not just to support this organization, but to support your local historical society wherever you are, because history isn't something that lives only in the past. It lives where you are, right now. All right, if questions occur to you and you'd like more information, please connect with them via the contact information provided. If you're a listener in the area the organization serves and you're not already a member, please consider joining and supporting them. I hope this information helps the audience understand how valuable the Conifer Historical Society is to the community and what kinds of excellent services they have to offer to their members and the public. The Conifer Historical Society in Conifer, Colorado is truly one of our preservation oaks. All right, that's a wrap for this episode. Music used today is from Cymbalbird, Score Wizards, Sun Channel Music, Music Dog, Rems Tunes, Eaton Nip, Premium Beat, and Gentle Jammers. Hey, this is Sean Radcliffe. See you all next time on Preservation Oaks. And until then, keep on giving and keep on living the good life.
You can visit at www.microstreamradio.com. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted by Microstream Radio. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, reproduced, copied, or used anywhere without the written permission of Microstream Radio. Preservation Oaks starring Sean Radcliffe originates in Salt Lake City, Utah. Be sure to join us for our next episode on your favorite podcast platform. This is Matthew Adams speaking. Preservation Oaks has come to you through the worldwide podcast platform Podbean, and our home is preservationoaks.podbean.com. Hopefully you found today's episode useful, informative, and thought-provoking. If so, please like, follow, comment, and or subscribe. Remember that being free means being free to be curious, and that historical and genealogical societies and museums allow us to discover the past, be free to explore where curiosity opens every door. Thanks to everyone for listening. Stay cozy, curious, and keep exploring the incredible stories that shape our world. Remember to cherish and support the preservation of history in your own communities. The content of this program is provided for educational and informational purposes only. Some material included in this program may be copyrighted by third parties. However, under Section 107 of the U.S. Copyright Act, the doctrine of fair use allows the limited use of copyrighted material without requiring permission from the rights holders when used for purposes such as education, criticism, commentary, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. These uses are legally permitted even if they might otherwise constitute infringement. If you wish to use copyrighted material from this program for purposes beyond fair use, you must obtain permission from the copyright owner. If you believe your copyrighted material has been used in this program in a way that does not qualify as fair use, please contact us at Preservation Oaks at gmail.com. Thank you,